To reach the rookery, we had to climb on board Envirolab 2. Once on the island, the Aqua Kids geared up in preparation for the birds.
Hey everybody at home, and welcome to another great episode of Aqua Kids. I'm Isabel.
And I'm Rachel.
And today we're here at a rookery on South Dumpling Island, where we're going to get a chance to see some seagulls and some cormorants.
And there were a lot of chicks just born, so there could be a lot of birds on the island, and it might get a little messy.
I'm willing to take the risk.
Okay, then let's go.
All right.
Hi guys, hey, welcome to South Dumpling Island here in Fisher's Island Sound.
Hey Baxter, so
there.
why are we on this island?
Well, I was just talking about the fact that we've come out to South Dumpling Island out here in Fisher's Island Sound. We're actually in New York State on the south side of the border between Connecticut and New York on this privately owned island. This is owned by a land trust, the Avalonia Land Trust, and we've come out to take a look at the nesting behavior of a couple of different species of birds that are really common on this island. When we know that when we're over on the mainland, we see a lot of gulls, a lot of greater blackbacks, a lot of herring gulls, a lot of different kinds of seagulls, but what you rarely see is birds of that type nesting. And that's because these birds need isolation in order to build their nests, because they're ground nesters. They build their nests down on the ground. And we know that that would be a problem for them on the mainland because of predators. Can you guys think of any animals that would bother a nest on the mainland, out on the beach?
Foxes.
Raccoons.
Yep.
Domesticated animals like cats and dogs?
Absolutely. Those animals, as well as the others that you mentioned, would be big trouble for any of these birds trying to nest over in the mainland. And so, as a result, when we think about birds that nest on the mainland, they're typically nesting up in trees to protect themselves from predators of that type. So these birds have to find isolated locations such as this, a small uninhabited island out here in Fisher's Island Sound, where they can be undisturbed for the duration of their breeding season. So we're out here in the late spring. This is a period of time where these birds have been nesting and laying eggs, and the chicks are hatching out. And we're going to have an opportunity to move around on the island and take a look at some of the different species that are here and some of the different stages of which they're nesting. Now, a couple of things I want to think about are, if we had been here a little more than 100 years ago, we wouldn't have seen any of these birds, because humans had essentially eradicated most of these animals from this area. We were hunting their eggs and consuming their eggs, and we were also hunting and killing the adults to get the feathers for fashion. For women at the time wanted to have fancy dresses that had plumage from a variety of different birds incorporated into the dresses themselves or into very fancy hats. And as a result of the pressure on those populations, pretty much you would not find gulls of any type here in the Northeast. They were pushed off into islands off the coast of Maine. But since protection was placed to help those animals not be preyed on in such a manner, they have rebounded strongly, so that now the populations of the birds that we're going to see today are very healthy. No question about the strength of those populations. So from a historical perspective, it's a rebounded species. When we move around on the island, a couple of things to think about. One is that we're here tucked away on the beach where there is no nesting. And so none of the birds is agitated, none of the birds is bothering us. They are highly territorial, but they only defend their individual territories, or the territories that the pair of birds makes around the eggs or around the chicks once they hatch and move out of the nest. So as we move from this spot along the beach or up onto the upland, we need to be attentive to a couple things. One is where we walk. These eggs are extremely well camouflaged to look just like this structure that we're walking on. This stone, the modeled appearance of this stone that we're on will match that of the eggs very closely, and certainly of the chicks very closely. So when we're walking, you really need to focus on where you're actually stepping. The eggs we'll see are in nests that are pretty well developed, but once the chicks hatch out, they'll move away from the nest, and it's not uncommon for a very young chick to move out of the nest and then freeze and hide just sitting in plain sight. But they're so well camouflaged, you got to be really careful. So one thing is, careful where you step, because we certainly don't want to damage any of the chicks or eggs as we move. The other thing is that these adults won't be really happy when we move into their territory. And they have at least a couple of ways of displaying that. One is they typically lift off the nest and fly above you if you're in their territory. And when they do that, sometimes they get excited and they go to the bathroom. And that's why some of you have ponchos with you, because they may get excited up above you and it may rain down some guano, which is rather unattractive and works well to chase away predators that might be nearby their nests. So that's something we want to watch out for. And the other is that if they are super aggressive, they may swoop down and actually try to attack us. So I'm going to be in the lead. I'm going to have my hard hat on. If you guys stay close to me, we shouldn't have any problems. We should be able to move around safely. And we'll stay away from the adults that are particularly aggressive. We know where the really aggressive pairs are, and we'll stay away from them for today's purpose.
Coming up next, the Aqua Kids check out some chicks.